After that, the Supreme Court justice ordered my arrest and an extradition because I did not bow to his dictatorship. So he seized my house twice before I came to the United States, put a gun in my wife, pregnant, 9 month pregnant. The second seize that he seized and raid they did against my family, Pedro, my youngest, he was just less than a month year old. So they did that against me, thinking probably that I would be afraid of them, but I'm not. So I just found a way to protect my family, and I came to the United States to cover United States election. During that time, Donald Trump retweeted me about all this machine voting system that you are guys uh, facing in the United States right now. This is the horrible system that we have in Brazil. We do not have ballots at all. We just have voting
Machines.
voting machines. And I kept talking. I kept denouncing them with all the crimes and everything they did in my country. Uh, After a while, I was almost the only one that really kept the voice uh, loud and clear because a lot of people started to be afraid. Something like I saw in the United States in 1.5 year ago when people were afraid to talk about fraud election in the United States or afraid to talk about what happened in January 6th.
And what's up, Utah? Welcome back to We Are the People Radio. This is your host, Jason Preston. And again, with my beautiful, lovely bride, Alexia Preston. How are we doing today?
Doing excellent.
Yes. Excited to talk about today some really interesting parallels with what's happening globally, and particularly in Brazil. So we've got. Why don't you tell a story about what this show's about and how this came together? Because this kind of started when we were in Miami a little bit ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're honored to have by Zoom today, actually a real superstar journalist. It's Allan dos Santos, a former. Well, I'll let him tell his full story, but he was a journalist in Brazil, a conservative journalist who has since been exiled to the United States. Mostly because of the attacks on him for quote unquote misinformation. Sound familiar? So this has really been an attack on freedom of speech. And when we met Allan in Miami last year at a Bolsonaro event, we just connected right away because, what we're trying to do here in Utah is, of course, alert the people of the state to the dangers of our First Amendment rights. And what we do here at We Are the People is empower people with information, not only for what's going on here locally, but what's encroaching here nationally that we're going to be seeing here in the States. So when Allan and we met last year, you saw those parallels. And even since then, there's been a lot more happening with Twitter and social media and some of the restrictions and crackdowns that's happened since Lula has taken power in Brazil. So we'll get into that today. He'll do it a lot more eloquently than my drunk history.
That was good drunk
recap
history.
Here.
We've got some good Brazilian friends, and they when they knew that we'd been in touch with Allan, they're like, Allan, they worship you. Honestly, you have so many. You have fans here in Utah that they were begging us to get this show on. So those of you who are not familiar with Allan, you will be. It is an honest treat. Allan, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me here. These Brazilian people they are amazing. So they know how to make a good welcome to some brothers in arms. We are in a fight. We are in a war right now. It's a totally different war than what they think. But so that's the point. I'm Allan dos Santos, journalist, founder of Terça Livre. which used to be the biggest YouTube channel in the whole South America, independent conservative channel. We we used to beat every uh, uh, CNN, even the mainstream media, all the mainstream media in YouTube in the same prime time in Brazil. I know beating CNN is not a big deal,
It is a
but
very big deal. We can't even beat our local media here.
no, you guys are just starting. It take a while, but CNN is not a big deal at all. So, uh, but we really reached the sky in Brazil with our YouTube channel, and then later on became a huge company in comparison with this. Of course, the media outlet is not that big, but we kind of created this independent journalism in Brazil, inspired by Olavo de Carvalho, who used to be a philosopher professor. He died 1 year ago in Virginia, 2 years ago actually. Sorry, and he told us, you guys need to take a look at what the American people are doing, um, with, I mean, promoting conservatism and looking back to the Constitution of the United States. So take a look at what they are doing and do the same. So we created Terça Livre back 2014, November 2014. I started with a very poor camera, horrible audio, with the clothes out in my back, like in a bedroom. We started that way, but we spoke freely and straight to the problems that people are suffering in Brazil. So the, that that connected us so hard and so tight that people really supported our agenda. And if you allow me, I would like to say to the people in Utah, support these two brave guys here, because we do not have George Soros, we do not have Bill Gates, and so forth. We are fighting our fight with our bare hands, so we support them. It's very important. So that's what people did with my job in Brazil. They really supported. Subscription sold in a very high level, and then we used to have in Brazil 70 employees. Uh, and when Bolsonaro became a president, Terça Livre used to be like a after job hangout, like for all the secretaries in the government in our show. So every day we could interview a congressman or senator or some secretary from the government of Bolsonaro, because they do not trust the mainstream media, so they used to talk to us. So our audience was really high. Uh, but because I was reporting and make some uh, denouncement about the communists in Brazil, I needed to bring my company into the United States back 2020. When I was when I just arrived in the United States, uh, I broke a story about some suitcase, well, that used to wiretapping people in the capital of Brazil, and the suitcase were from the North Korea embassy and Chinese embassy, and I had all the documents proving it. And after that, the Supreme Court justice ordered my arrest and an extradition, because I did not bow to his dictatorship. So he seized my house twice before I came to the United States, put a gun in my wife, pregnant, 9 month pregnant. The second seize that he seized and raid they did against my family, Pedro, my youngest, he was just less than a year old. So they did that against me, thinking probably that I would be afraid of them, but I'm not. So I just found a way to protect my family, and I came to the United States to cover United States election. During that time, Donald Trump retweeted me about all these machine voting system that you are guys facing in the United States right now. This is the horrible system that we have in Brazil. We do not have ballots at all. We just have voting machines. And I kept talking. I kept denouncing them with all the crimes and everything they did in my country. After a while, I was almost the only one that really kept the voice loud and clear, because a lot of people started to be afraid. Something like I saw in the United States in 1.5 years ago, when people were afraid to talk about fraud election in the United States, or afraid to talk about what happened in January 6th, like how makeup was that, like this is so fake. I mean, this is not the right wing people that I have seen in these 50 states. I have traveled probably 28 or 29 states in America, and what happened in January 6th is not the American people at all. I mean, that was crazy. And also, people were afraid to talk about some topics. And I remember, in the CPAC of 2020, I was still in Brazil. I came to the CPAC, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Joshua Phillip. I remember that I spoke to Bannon too and other guys, saying you cannot let anyone behind, even if you disagree with that person. I was talking about Alex Jones. So Alex Jones was recently banned from YouTube back then. I think it was 2 years after he has got banned on YouTube, and nobody was defending him back then. And I was telling them, don't do that. That's everything that communists want to see from us. Like if they see us silencing or avoiding some topics or some people after they have been censored, they just go forward. Like if they see cowards, they just go forward. We need to be brave. And when I said that, I said, be careful, because what you guys are doing here, forgetting about Alex Jones and let him behind, that's going to reach you all. And I said that to my Brazilian audience too, when my YouTube channel got banned. And I say, I was in a radio show, the biggest audience radio and TV show in Brazil, prime time. I was telling them, don't think they will stop on me. So they will go after you all. And 1 year after that, they went against the radio show. So sorry that I talked too much about my life, but just to summarize, that I was fighting for 3.5 years without seeing my family, my wife and kids, and my daughter. My daughter was recovering from meningitis and stuff like that. So she almost died when I came to the U.S. to find a safe place for them. And only after 3.5 years, we got our family together. And it's worthy, because we need to fight for freedom no matter what.
I've got a lot to say.
Lots to unpack here. I mean, it's such an incredible story. I mean, when we met you, our jaws were on the floor, because you're a hero for a reason, and you went through all of this just because honest journalism, trying to get the truth out to the people. So that's what resonates with us. Even just being on a small scale here in Utah. But the other thing that really resonates is just the parallels. For those that don't know about politics in Brazil, Bolsonaro was very much a Trump-like figure in Brazil. And they had tenure of the country during similar times. They had a great relationship. Brazil was prosperous, same way America was prosperous. And it seemed almost like it was following the exact same playbook at that time. We lost Trump. We had January 6th. Biden, who we know has all of these red flags, we don't need to tell our audience all the concerns with Biden, steps into power, and the country goes into a tailspin. Followed not many months later by same thing, Bolsonaro being taken out of power, upended by Lula, and he is a known criminal. In any other country, no one that is an actual criminal wouldn't be able to be elected to president. And a similar insurrection type event happened after that. So you were seeing the exact same playbook unfold during the same time that you were going through all of the challenges you were going through as you were trying to come to America with your family. So we're in a similar state right now of unrest, and it seems has only gotten much worse since then. So what kind of state is Brazil in now? Can you tell us now that Lula's in power there?
Well, Lula in power, he's an imposter. He did not get elected. You can see Bolsonaro with the people on the street, all the rallies. Lula really cannot do that. If he does that, that would be very, very shameful. I don't believe that Lula can get 10 people around him without paying them. Bolsonaro got 1,000 and 1,000 people. And I probably you guys have seen this, paying people to go to protest. That sounds familiar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's George Soros that does that, and the Democrats, they really pay for people to put their tents in universities and pretend they care about any other country or people, but they are just being paid to be there. So that's what Lula is. That's Lula da Silva. He's an open communist, confessed. So I'm not making an adjective to Lula. So he confessed he's a communist. So he's a founder of Paulus Forum, created by him and Fidel Castro back the 90s, after the Berlin Wall fall. So they were, since 1990, since that time, they were kind of reshaping the socialism in South America, just kind of shaking the socialism in South America just to put it out all the USSR aspect or Chinese aspect and making that more South America, more Brazilian socialism, more Venezuelan socialism. So they really got it. I mean, they did it. Congratulations. They really make a new kind of a socialism movement in South America, together with the Christians, together with the Catholic Church. I'm a Catholic. Together with some pastors, with the liberation theology, which sells something like Karl Marx was a kind of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ was not doing miracles. So he was just doing social justice. You know, like they switch the words and creating this narrative just to put in the minds of people that becoming Marxists, they would be close to Jesus Christ or something good. So they really got it. A lot of bishops, priests, pastors, reverends, they really fell in this crap path. But thank God, a lot of people were trying to fight them back, like Professor Olavo. So he was a very truly intellectual and philosopher. So he was describing them as they are, as they were back then. So he was describing them, unmasking them, and showing a whole new perspective of politics, showing us what the conservatives in America were doing, like talking about Ronald Reagan, talking about how the United States are so patriotic, and that was way before Trump. So Olavo was teaching us how the American people is a good model to defend their country. You know, I mean, that was a good point. And that movement was growing deeply, but not in number, but more intellectual. It was started with the intellectual movement. Somehow, the same thing that happened back in the 50s in the United States, that politically, we can say the consequence of these conservative intellectuals from the 50s, the consequence of that was Ronald Reagan elections. Same thing happened in Brazil. But Bolsonaro was so popular, and is still so popular in Brazil, because he has a truly heart. And there is a quote from Olavo that I love. There are two kinds of people that really got people's souls or people's minds. One is the sincere, honest person Another one is a psychopath. So these both guys really got people's attention. And if you're not a psychopath, you are very honest and you do not not comply with the psychopath, people will realize that you are brave and you have courage to fight back. And they will support you. So that's what happened with Bolsonaro. And Lula was arrested and he just got released because of the Supreme Court. I don't know if it sounds familiar to you.
Oh, yeah.
The Workers' Party packed the Supreme Court. Does it sound
It's
familiar
the same
to you all?
playbook. I mean, literally, it's the same playbook.
And the
It
same
is.
corruption
It is.
at the highest levels.
What?
Yeah, no, for sure. But they have one thing in their favor. They are international. We don't. We are not, because we care about our country, right? So
Right.
American first. Don't
Right.
give up of it, okay? And I want to take care of my country, and now I'm here in the United States. I want to take care of this country because, by the way, the fourth child is coming, so it's in America. So I need to take care of this
Congratulations.
amazing country. Yeah,
Well,
thank
and,
you so much.
and if
Appreciate it.
America falls, there's nowhere left to go.
Exactly.
No, not at all. This is the last bastion of freedom. But this is what they have in their favor. They are so well connected internationally. They know how to fight, pretending they are against each other. I can give you some example. Obama was the first very strong president. Let's say strong because of America, not because of Obama. You know what I mean? So Obama was praising Lula da Silva. And later on, he was kind of criticizing Lula da Silva. So they just pretend they are enemies and friends, depending of the circumstance.
It's the same thing as our
Because
politicians. Yeah.
Yeah, so they can do that because they are internationally connected. But their opponents are not well connected. So this is the first time we are kind of a sharing experience. Like, look at what's happening in Hungary, or look at what's happening in Australia. Look at what is happening in Pakistan. Look at what is happening in Brazil. Look at what is happening in Canada, or whatever. So this is the first time all these countries that have been raped by these communists, because we are being raped. There's no better word for that. They are really. Can I say F word? Sure. No.
Yeah, sure. We can. It's a
Okay,
show
so-
that it demands it.
Yeah. So they are really fuck us all. You know, like they are really destroying our countries.
Yeah.
They are destroying our families, our churches, our kids' life, and it is really bad that we use some soft words about them. They are crap. They're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
That's it. And they
They're
are
evil.
destroying us. They are very evil. Very, very evil.
You know,
And they are destroying our countries.
You know, one
Go
of
ahead,
the
sorry.
one of the things I love about you and the reason we're such big fans is, you know, Plato. One of the things Plato says is, "He who tells the stories rules the world," and these governments understand if they can control the media, or let's just say the elite understand if they can control the media, if they can control the narrative, they control the minds of the people. And, you know, there in Brazil, they had control of the media. And the media was pushing a very consistent communist Marxist narrative. And because there was no alternative narrative, the people were buying it and going along with it. I love that you saw that the only way to save that country or to save the people was to get involved with information warfare. That you had to give a counter narrative. That you had to speak for truth. And you took you started off as a little YouTube channel, just you, and you were working in your apartment or in your house,
Bathroom, it sounds like.
bathroom, and you just consistently spoke the truth and exposed the lie. But the thing is that it reminds me of Tucker Carlson a little bit, you personally, that you became the loudest voice in the country, that you took this YouTube channel and basically change the narrative to a point you had politicians coming on, and they wanted to come on because they knew you had the people were listening. One of the things that in Utah we have a real problem. This is a state that I don't know how familiar you are with their main religion here, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but in their doctrine they believe the Constitution is inspired by God. It is a very patriotic people. But the media has been subverted, or the media has subverted the culture. They refuse to talk about anything that will wake the people up and get them concerned. So you have a population here in Utah. You have the left media that's very leftist, but the conservative media, their objective is just to keep people talk about happy stories. Everything's good. Paint it like Utah like this place of no crime. And so as a result, they don't talk about illegals, the invasions. They won't talk about what's going on in the schools because they want to keep the people asleep. And so you have a population of very good people here who just have their heads in the sand and think there's no problems and there's nothing to worry about. And so that has been our big challenge, is trying to challenge that narrative. And the thing that's inspiring about you is you took that fight to the point where you had people the military breaking into your home, putting guns to your family's heads, and you didn't back down. I mean, I just...
What's more heroic than that?
You remind me of the founding fathers, because that was the price that they paid. It was being willing to pay, their fortunes, their honor, and their lives in defense of freedom. So yeah, I'm just really thankful for what you're doing, because we need more of that right now, and I feel like we not less, because the media in Utah or in America is doing the same thing.
No, I appreciate your kind words a lot, and I was talking to a friend of mine from he's the head of the Conservative Caucus, and he was with Roger Stone yesterday, I guess. I was in a Roger Stone show 2 days ago, and we were discussing something very interesting and powerful that I really would like that all Americans listen to. United States is not strong because of money. United States wasn't born because of money. United States were born as a strong country because of the values and the love for this land. And these values cannot be forgotten. We can't forget the blood of the people that really died for this flag is waving in front of my house. So every time I see a U.S. flag waving, I talk to my wife, and we both love to see how patriotic the United States are. I know it used to be way more, but it's still, for us in Brazil, in comparison what the patriotism you have here, Brazilian people and all the people in South America, they're like a savage. They don't like their flags. They don't like their countries, Bolsonaro support is different, of course. Milei supporters are different, but they are this kind of a savage socialist mind, crazy. They don't know anything about socialism, Marxism, but they operate, they behavior like this stupid mentality to hate their countries. And when we see the patriotism in the United States, when we see this flag waving, we need to remember a lot of people died for it. And this is the root of our passion and our love for truth. Because if we have some kind of peace, like you said in Utah, it's very peaceful. It's very wonderful. I have a very close friend of mine. He is very nice. He's Brazilian, by the way. And he always tell me, you need to come here, man.
We'd love to have you.
Beautiful. Yeah, I would love to. But the people in Utah need to remember, if you have more peace in there than in Missouri, it's not because only, of course, you need to protect the Second Amendment, but it's not about law. It's about culture. If you lose it, it's done. Because how can you teach, or I don't know if you have this word in English, reteach, like a teach twice. How can you teach someone that have lost freedom? Because those kind of people that have lost freedom, how can you tell them, remember when you have freedom? But they don't remember because they have seen that. So once you do not have freedom, it's hard to explain what freedom is. But once you still have freedom, you need to show to people, look at that place over there. If you lose your values and your patriotism, if you do not watch out, if you keep sleeping and smiling and everything is good, be careful because you can end like that.
How
you need to? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
How concerned are you when you've seen Brazil fall in the process of falling? You're here in America. You've seen what happened to Venezuela. You've seen communism take over, so many places in the world. How concerned should people be here in America about what's happening right now?
I will tell you something very deep. You probably will not see. You probably going to see, but the audience is not going to see that as soon as I would like to. On the executive power or elections in general, the legislative branch and the executive branch, we are kind of mastering this, right? We are kind of electing good politicians better than 20 years ago, right? If we compare like that, the communists are afraid, and that's why they are doing fraud, right? So they are censoring people on the internet because through the media, they are also losing. So the next step is what we have in Brazil, the judicial power. They know if they can get the Supreme Court and all these courts in every state packed by a very strong revolutionaries, that's going to be the end of story. Mainly the federal Supreme Court. If they can pack that, it's done. It's gone. It's impossible to overcome.
We're seeing that at every level. We're seeing professors in schools. The schools are getting overtaken by these progressives. We're seeing it in our local level politicians. We're seeing it obviously federally, the Supreme Court, as you mentioned, and then the highest level of power. But you've touched on something that I'd love to get into, and that's the freedom of speech. And you're seeing that crackdown, especially on Twitter and with Elon Musk, even this last month in April. Will you just speak to what's happening in Brazil and the crackdown on freedom of speech?
Elon Musk reinstate my account, so he got to fight with the Supreme Court. Once he reinstate my account, I'm not kidding. The Supreme Court in Brazil, they just freak out. They said, no, Allan dos Santos cannot be back. So my live streaming, I got back doing live streaming there. April. Oh, it was April. Yeah, it was April 9. I have almost 500,000 views in the live streaming. So they really can't let us talk freely in Brazil because we will beat them hard. I love to beat the audience of the communists. Really, I enjoy that so far. So if we are free, we can unmask them because people are afraid in Brazil. So we can be their voice. And we can also find an echo in their hearts when we say that we worry about what's going on with their families and fight and so forth. So after Elon Musk reinstated my account and also gave freedom to a lot of profiles in Brazil, so they really wanted to Elon Musk to change the kind of censorship in Brazil and comply with all of that. But there is a problem. If Elon Musk comply with all these stupid order in Brazil, he will go against the Brazilian law, which is against the United States law too. So that's why we are about to have a hearing at the Congress. So this is basically what we have right now. If Elon or X comply with the Supreme Court, he will gonna face a problem here in the United States, and he don't want to do that, and he wants freedom of speech. So let us see what's gonna happen. So Rumble now is a subpoena in this hearing, and Rumble was also blocked in Brazil because of my YouTube channel, or because of my Rumble channel, Terça Livre channel. So they also want to testify at the Congress. I don't know if the proper word is testify, but they want to be there talking about what Moraes, the Supreme Court Justice of Brazil, is doing against freedom of speech. And they are really afraid of freedom of speech because once you have freedom of speech, you can wake people's minds. So that's why Trump going to be the next president of the United States, because of freedom of speech. Because people are talking about what he's doing. Imagine after this election fraud for 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, let's say 4 years ago, 2020. So imagine after fraud election, you couldn't see Dinesh D'Souza doing a documentary, so he can't do that. Imagine this scenario, okay? Imagine Dinesh D'Souza prohibited to do that. Imagine Trump threatened to be arrested because of something he said about an election. It is actually happening, but it's on a state level, not on a federal level. But imagine if Alex Jones wasn't invited by Tucker Carlson to talk about freedom of speech, and imagine if Steven Crowder did not invite Alex Jones to be in his content and so forth. So because this is what happened when they threat freedom of speech, people run away afraid of that. They really, the flock will not be together. So they really, how do I say that in English? Despair?
Disperse, yeah.
Yeah. So they will not be united. They will not be together. And this is what it's actually happening in Brazil. Bolsonaro is being brave to invite people for new rallies. He can be arrested anytime with no reason. Just because of that. Just because he's gathering people. And you can see it's very peaceful. They pray together. They pray the Our Father. People praise Jesus. Talk about freedom. It's all beautiful people. Because right? If you have a bunch of ugly people, they are coming. Period. That's for sure. And I want to talk about it in another opportunity. And I'm not talking about the physical aspect of it. Dumb people are ugly, and this is very, very curious. Really, it's crazy. And what do you see? It's a lot of beautiful people smiling and having hope, praising God because they love their countries and so forth. And now we're having this kind of a rebirth just because Elon Musk did not want to shut us down.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? So we are not as protected as the United States Constitution. For example, I have here all the jurisprudence of the First Amendment Supreme Court decision. So that can fit in a book. I'm not kidding. Brazil has 6 constitutions so far. In all these 6 crazy constitutions, all the jurisprudence that we have about freedom of speech, one is worse than another. It doesn't fit in a book. It could be in a house, maybe, a lot of paper. They talk a lot. They don't mean anything. They just want to censor you. That's it, period. But you still have it. You do have freedom of speech. You guys need to protect it.
Yeah.
As much as you can.
And we are losing it. And government is, sits by quietly while and actually spouts off the dangers of misinformation. Even our governor here and our lieutenant governor, anybody questioning, the elections in Utah or election integrity, they said that it's dangerous to democracy and it's disinformation. And so, of course, they're censoring people. We've had our YouTube channel taken down.
Shadow bans.
Yeah, we've shadow banned. So these, technocratic, this technocratic government and these, and Google and the social media out there, they are censoring the people, and that's extremely dangerous.
You know what is funny? Sorry to interrupt you. You know what is funny? Every time they describe what they call disinformation and so forth, every time they describe it, there is just one image in my mind. So you're describing CNN. So the point is, why CNN can do all these things in a regular Joe, from a poor neighborhood or rich neighborhood, whatever, why they can't post it, and why they can't talk about it if CNN does the same thing? In a contrary sense. But if if you ask them to describe what they call disinformation, and by the way, the word disinformation in Russian, desinformatia, was created by the Soviets.
Huh.
So it is so crazy when you go deep in what they are doing. They are just doing the same thing the Soviets used to do. The same thing as
history repeats itself.
Yeah, they are revolutionary, and they want to censor us because they want the power. And the United States still have we the people, because the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. And if you don't take care of it, there's no other country that you can go and protect yourself.
Yeah. Well, there's so much we could talk about. I'd love to talk to you about, the churches, because you're seeing, you talked about how the government and the Marxist communist movement in Brazil infiltrated the churches, and you're seeing that here as well, where they're pushing the teddy bear Jesus. They were the highest virtues of the gospel of Jesus Christ now are tolerance and it's the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Those are the things that make you a Christian. Not standing for truth, not defending freedom. But we'll have to have another conversation when you have more time. But as we wrap up, I'd like to let you finish by just sharing any advice you have, for the people here in America, people here in Utah.
Advice or even warnings.
Yeah, from again, a man who's literally been chased out of his country and had his family lives in danger, standing up and fighting for freedom.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to be here with you guys. One thing I would like to tell to all the American people: if you know what freedom is, you probably need to understand how looks like when you lose it. And it's like a clothes, if you never have been, sorry my language, but if you never have been naked in the snow, don't tell me that it's not hot or not warm or not cold enough. You guys are warm because you have clothes on in this snow, this crazy era that we are living right now. Listen to the people who have been suffering outside without any protection. And be careful if you hate the United States or the United States Constitution, because this is not a good game. You can't play with that. There is no other country in the world that has this amazing Constitution. And if you allow them to destroy your country, your flag, you're going to be a dishonor. I think that word say in English, dishonor.
Dishonor, yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to be a dishonor for all the people that came before you. Don't do that. Don't destroy this country. Protect the United States Constitution, and be careful with all these fox guys who want to eat your family alive. And I'm literally saying that. There are some cannibals in Haiti eating people during the protest. If you think you are civilized enough that never go that far, be careful. You are playing with communists, and they can destroy your culture, and you can become barbarian. Don't do that.
Awesome.
Well, Allan, I'll also give you a little hope or to something you said earlier. You challenged us and said you thought patriotism was stronger in America before. And I don't know if that's because of what you're seeing or what you're seeing maybe on the news, but I'm going to challenge you and actually say that patriotism in America is very strong. And maybe it's being watered down by the loud voices of those paid or not paid protesters, those Antifa, those infiltrators. And it's hard to hear past them, but if you can see and hear past those loud voices of progressivism, underneath it all, you'll find the greatest patriots. And that's what our goal is, to wake up those patriots, make sure that they're boots on the ground to peacefully protest and stand up so that we don't follow in the path, not just of what Brazil is going on, but also of the Soviets, of Mao's China. So I think patriotism is actually at an all-time high. It's just a matter of quieting those voices that try to make you think otherwise. So appreciate you bringing your patriotism and flying your flag. And we're proud to know you and happy to have you here in America.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. God bless you, and God bless America.
God bless you. Thank you, Allan.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Allan. We'd love to have you come back. I'd love to even do shows on the immigration issues also, because I feel like that's incredible. I'm hearing there's actually some active protests in Rio right now, or one coming up on Sunday. So maybe we can just have you up and let us know what's going on in Brazil and things as they happen there, or as things happen here. We'd love to get updates from you and love to have you back.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I got to go. I got to run right now.
Yes, please,
Thanks,
please.
Thank you.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Well, to our listeners, Alexi, do you have any closing thoughts?
I have a lot. I mean, I love talking to Allan, because what happens elsewhere in the world, whatever happens in history, whether it's the communist takeover of things in the past or what we're seeing now present, we're not exempt from that. We're not removed from, oh, well, it's happening in Brazil, it can never happen here. And it's easy to say, oh, I'll just go to an island somewhere and hide, but there's nowhere to go. If America falls, there's nowhere else. This is the place. This is the reason people are coming here from Brazil or hundreds of other countries right now. There's a reason why when Lula took power, Bolsonaro had restrictions on Maduro from Venezuela coming into the country, and one of the first things he did was welcome Maduro in with open arms, because it's that spread of socialism that's creeping in, and not so slowly and not so insidious. It's happening overtly now. It's happening in our institutions. It's happening in our politics. It's happening almost everywhere, and they have no reason to hide it anymore. So if you have eyes to see it now, it doesn't take much, but you can be a part of the revolution against it by just speaking up and raising awareness to your friends, to your neighbors, for your families. So be that voice of truth, and look to heroes like Allan dos Santos to be the pioneer of truth-seeking, truth-telling, at no fear, because you never know what it's going to cost you, whether it's intimidation to your family or getting your stations taken down, whatever it might be. It's worth the cost.
Yeah, thank you, baby. That was beautiful, and you're exactly right. I'm just really inspired by the power and the importance of the First Amendment. And I think, it's easy to take for granted the First Amendment or diminish the importance of it. And I don't think it's about to say what you think, but there's nothing more powerful, no sword more powerful, no weapon more powerful than the logos. It was the logos. It was the word that God used to create, the worlds. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who's one of my heroes, we talk about this. One of the things he said is that one man who speaks the truth can bring down a tyranny. You look at the good that Allan has had. Allan has literally changed the culture and what happened in Brazil. Brazil is a different place because of Allan, because one man spoke up, started a YouTube channel.
He overtook the CNN.
Right. So, we always have people, especially on our Instagram, say, well, what can I do? What can I do? And, ultimately I believe it's boots on the street. People have to be on the streets. When it gets to a point at this level, people have to be on the streets. And I think we're going to get there. But just as important, and probably more important than that right now, what is it that they are trying to look at? What is the enemy trying? Look at your enemy. What is their greatest fear? Whether it's, Biden or Cox, it's trying to silence people. It's trying to silence discussion. It's using the social media platforms, misinformation. During COVID, they're trying to silence anyone, doctors, anyone questioning the narrative. Silence them. Turning off accounts, turning off our YouTube channel, because the thing that the emperor, tyranny is always based on lies. And we are living in a tyranny right now, and it is based in lies. This whole DEI, this whole LGBT, it's all based in lies. There are only two genders. There is the God, family is ordained by God. Man and woman, their purpose is to create children. There is a divine plan. And, borders are important. the principles and the values this country are founded upon matter. It was the words in the Declaration of Independence that led to the Revolutionary War. And so there is nothing powerful than the words you speak. That is what they fear. And so what can you do? Speak. Don't be afraid to speak. What did they do at January 6th? They silenced anyone who was speaking up against the elections. Look right here in Utah during 2021, anyone who spoke up against election integrity, in fact, no reps except for Phil Lyman and Steve Christiansen would speak up about election integrity. Everyone else, they were afraid to speak because of the power of the logos, and they were afraid of retribution from Utah's deep state. So, to our listeners, speak. Start YouTube channels. Share this type of content from Allan. Share. We have to grow this. We have to take control of the narrative, because right now it is Utah's mainstream narrative, mainstream media, that is keeping this state asleep, that is keeping the idea that all is well in Zion. This is the state that should be leading the fight for freedom. And we are not even in the fight because again, the media has kept us thinking there's no problems. Cox wants you thinking there is no invasion at our borders and that we're not a sanctuary state. We are acting as one. And what's worse is lying about it, because saying we're not and us really being it just keeps people asleep from fighting back. So we need to wrap this up, but I just want to tell our listeners, God bless you guys. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you guys sharing this content. We appreciate you guys going out and sharing your own content. We appreciate those of you who are going out and being just journalists. Do you have something you want to share, baby?
Yeah, I mean, there's something I don't think we stressed it enough. When Allan held up the book and he showed, the constitutions that Brazil has had, what is it, four or six
They've been through 6 constitutions.
How beautiful is it to have a constitution that we've had for 200 plus years? One constitution, a beautiful thing that allows us to have free speech, that allows us to have the Second Amendment. So why should we not fight to protect that?
Yeah.
And Brazilians, we have many Brazilian friends. We love our Brazilian community. They'll assemble. They'll come out. They will stake out. You think January 6th was powerful? What they did there for weeks after Lula was installed was inspiring. So we could take a page from their book, just how to gather and how to fight back peacefully and lead a revolution.
Yeah, it's needed, and it's coming. So, folks, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for sharing and supporting, and God bless you guys. God bless America, and God bless Utah.